those videos, they'll see the whole thing, and it'll be clear to me, and it'll be clear to her in court.
I mean, the videos are pretty clear, are they not? I mean, she's
that's
shoving elbows, some punches. I mean, this is
a lot of
violent
pushing and
activity
shoving.
against law enforcement, isn't it?
It's a lot of pushing and shoving. I don't know if
Would a regular person, if they came and did that to a federal officer, get away with it?
a regular person,
Like a regular, just a non-politician.
They might get pardoned.
If they showed up at a federal facility,
They might get pardoned by this
but were
president.
they charged? Were they charged? Were they convicted in court?
Let me.
Yes.
Would a regular
you
person
brought up,
get away with it?
You brought up
occupancy. And if these members of Congress...
But what does that have to do with a clear video of someone
that video
assaulting
was
a
clear
police
to you,
officer?
Scott? Was that
Yeah,
clear? Wasn't
pretty
it?
clear.
No, there's nothing clear about it.
It's not a cheap fake, I can assure you of that.
Let me tell you something. If you took off your MAGA goggle glasses
It's
and
not a
looked
cheap
at
fake.
it...
The problem is they have a video of it. And it doesn't look great. And if the argument is, we're here to conduct legitimate oversight, is that what oversight looks like? Pushing and shoving and elbowing and causing a riot at a federal facility? Is that what oversight looks like?
I think what you're saying is
These
incorrect.
officials gave Congresswoman McIver and the other two lawmakers a 1-hour tour of the facility. So to then go from that to pressing charges seems hard to sustain.
It was pretty reasonable for them to do that after the way they acted, was it not?
It certainly does seem very
can I just
reasonable.
Can I ask the mayor a question, actually?
Well, we gotta go.
Were you invited, I think, did the U.S. attorney also, when they dropped the charges, you were invited to come and tour the facility, right?
She did put that in the.
Are you going to do it?
Of course.
Good.
Of course.
So here's the point. You got a tour for the members. He's been offered a tour. There's all sorts of accommodations being made here to people who didn't act right in the moment.
Well,
I'm just
listen,
saying,
there's only one
this is good
party here
action.
pressing charges, and it's the...
I don't know how he does it, but somehow he's able to do it every single night, go into the belly of the beast and do battle with crazy liberals on and on. I'm talking specifically about Scott Jennings. If you guys have not followed him, you're going to see Scott on X at Scott Jennings KY for Kentucky. Scott has a new book coming out, by the way. This new book is called A Revolution of Common Sense, How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. I believe the book comes out in December. We're going to talk to Scott Jennings about his new book and what he's doing at CNN and everything political commentary-wise that he's doing over there to fight the good fight on an ongoing basis. Scott, can you hear me? How are you?
I can, and I'm great, and thanks for having me. An honor to speak with you.
Thank you very much for coming on. As I played in that pre-clip so people could see you, which we didn't need to really play because every time we see something on CNN, you're always in there doing battle and trying to bring some sense in these people. How do you do it? How do you get on there knowing that they're going to come out with the craziest stuff? And I just love the way you look at them like you people can't be real. So how do you do that every single day?
Well, I just try to remember what my job is, and I'm trying to represent half or more than half the country, sometimes 80% of the country, depending on the issue, and just inject a little common sense into these conversations. And I just have to remember that, the Democratic Party has become a fringe political movement in some cases, and they fight hard for illegal aliens. They fight hard for boys and girls sports. They take the 20% of every 80-20 issue in America, and I know that on many nights that's what I'm going to face. And so I just try to show up, keep smiling, and remain calm, and know that half or well over half the country really stands with where President Trump is on these things, which is in most cases just a position of common sense. That's really all it is.
Now, without naming names, obviously, don't want you to compromise yourself. Do you feel they actually believe the stuff they say, or are they having to toe the party line at this point?
I think some of the people live in such a bubble that they have not considered how their position sounds to people outside the bubble. And I actually think that that's one of the valuable things about the 10 o'clock show. It's an actual debating show. It's one of the only shows like it on television. And for many of the liberals that I debate, I may be the only Republican that they ever talk to on a daily or on a weekly basis. And so I think it's possible, and this is unfortunate in America, for people to get in such a small bubble that it's sort of hard for them to understand how crazy they sound to the rest of America. But that's the great thing about the show, is that when you can expose some of these arguments to the truth and to a little sunshine, it becomes clear, who's on the right side of things.
When you see how some of the comments are, sometimes when you're off air and you've gone home and you're sitting back, Do you think the Democrat Party can be saved? Is it too far gone now? Is it something that they're going to fight Trump to the end? But how do they come back and instead of being 80-20, maybe even being 60-40, how do they get back to governing for America?
I think about this a lot because when you lose an election, that's a time for reflection, and they lost the 2024 election. They should be reflecting on why, and I guess they are, but they're learning all the wrong lessons. I mean, they're going even farther left than they were in 2024, which is one of the reasons they lost in 24. Look at who the leading voices in the Democratic Party are today. It's Jasmine Crockett. It's people like this Congresswoman McIver, who was arrested at the ICE facility. The most extreme, radical, progressive voices are now the most prominent voices in the Democratic Party. And the people who are most willing, I think, to put out more than a whiff of the idea that violence is necessary here in the wake of their loss, those are the people who are getting all the eyeballs and all the attention and all the energy in the Democratic Party. So my personal view is they could become a legitimate political party again, but they're not able to do that because they're allowing the radicals in their party to take control of it in the wake of this loss. It should have been a clarifying moment for them, but instead, I think their future is even murkier than ever.
Wow. So with everything that's been happening over the last 2 or 3 days, and it seems now instead of taking this issue head on, they're still trying to deflect about the Biden thing, saying, well, Trump's crazy, and we didn't know. Why is it? I don't even know. Would the book come out tomorrow? Jake Tapper's book, I believe it's tomorrow. Why all
comes
of
out today, actually.
Oh, it's today. Okay, so we're going to hear even more stuff, I guess, today. Have you read it yet?
I've read quite a bit, excerpts of it, and lots of passages in it, and I'm still reading the entire book. And I'll be doing some television on it later today, because obviously at CNN we're doing a lot of promotion of it. But there's one passage that really stands out to me, and it's there's a passage that says there was an enormous cover-up led by Joe Biden's family to cover up his mental and physical decline, and that the country was being run by 5 unelected people, and at best, Joe Biden was a senior member of the board. Now, that doesn't sound like the U.S. Constitution to me. That sounds like a cabal of people who have inflicted a constitutional crisis on the United States of America. Now, the Democrats are saying, well, he's not the president anymore. We shouldn't be looking in the rearview mirror. But this is the biggest scandal in modern American political history. Finally, by the way, after all these years, we could put Carl Bernstein on TV to say something's worse than Watergate, and it'll actually be true. It's worse than Watergate. Finally, the first time in your life you've heard that, and it's actually true.
So what's going to happen? Because it seems like they're all in protection mode right now, and I've got this feeling that Trump's smelling the blood in the water. So where do you think it goes?
Well, I think from an oversight perspective, the Republicans in Congress have a duty and a responsibility to haul all these people in front of Congress and to ask them questions about how deep the conspiracy was to cover up the mental, cognitive decline of Joe Biden, and to ask a simple question. Who was running the country? Who was making decisions for the country? Was the president aware of decisions being made in his name? That's the purpose of the coming oversight that I hope that we're going to get. That's number one. Number two, as a political matter, I don't know what you think, but I think if I'm an average voter and I'm looking at these two political parties and I see what the Democrats were willing to lie to me about for the last 4 years, I think they're in a deep hole of credibility with the American people. And as a political matter, it's going to take them a long time to get out of that hole. I mean, every senior member of the Democratic Party that's still in power, still in office today, went on your television and told you, oh, Joe Biden's fine. Behind closed doors, he rides unicycles and juggles knives and does trigonometry. That's what they told you. So when they come on your TV now and lie about President Trump's tax plans or what the Republicans want to do about this policy or something going on in the Middle East, why should you believe a thing they would say when they have lied to you, clearly lied to you about something as fundamental as the condition of the President of the United States?
Well, you shouldn't. And take that a little step further, and with your profession or industry, it's going to be very tough as well, is because so many people on these various networks had to have seen what was happening, and they chose to look the other way as well. So their credibility, for the most part, I don't know how do they regain their credibility. I guess that's what Jake Tapper's trying to do now by exposing it. The timeliness of it's weird, but how does the media fix what they've done?
Well, look, some people in the media were better than others. And I'm one who believes this book, Jake and Alex, by the way, if you don't know Alex Thompson from Axios, he was one of the first reporters actually to begin to write stories with sources inside the White House saying, hey, there are things really, really wrong with the president. So I think Alex was one of the good actors on this from the beginning. But I think this book is a serious public service. Without this catalog of all the ways that the Democrats and the Biden family and the people running the White House, without the catalog of all the ways they were covering up for the President of the United States, we might not know exactly the extent, the deepness of the conspiracy that existed. That's number one. And number two, it might not lead to, if we didn't have this book, it might not lead to what I think should be the coming oversight hearings from Congress about what the Democrats did to the people of the United States in the wake of the 2020 election. So I'm grateful for the book. I'm looking forward to finishing it. And I think everybody should read it because it's an expose of the rot inside of one of your two major political parties. And it ought to really affect how you think about every election moving forward.
So if you were president right now, or if you were attorney general, what steps do you think should be taken to, as you described it, I described it the same way, fix this rot?
Yeah, I think the questions that ought to be asked are what was going on inside the White House in terms of official decision making. I mean, the Constitution is pretty clear. There are certain powers that only the president has. So I think we ought to be asking the question, was the president himself exercising these powers, or were people who were unelected exercising powers on his behalf that he didn't know about? And if so, what is the result of that? What can be done about that? Are all the decisions that Joe Biden made actually legitimate? So just as a legal or as a constitutional matter, I think we have to ask ourselves, was the president of the United States being usurped by people around him? I think it's a legitimate question at this point, and obviously this book is a kickoff for that discussion, but there are lots of questions that need to be asked of the people who were in the White House around Biden. I mean, it's pretty obvious, at least the last 2 years, a small group of people shielded him, even from his own cabinet. I mean, there's reporting that he didn't even see his cabinet for the last 2 years. So presidential decrees, presidential decisions, the things that were coming out, supposedly the Oval Office, did the president even know about it? I mean, to me, it's a core constitutional question about whether his power was being exercised by people that we did not elect.
And what's scary about it is, given his current condition, which is probably worse than when he was on the campaign, the being able to get to the heart of it, you're not going to be able to bring him back in and subpoena him and put him on a stand or do some sort of deposition, because if he couldn't do it before with Robert Hur, he's not going to be able to do it now. So I don't even know, who do you ask at this point as to determine what the auto pen, I guess it was like 2,500 commutations that were done under his name. How do we even determine at this point if they all just clam up?
Well, I think you start with the family. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the First Lady, Jill Biden, and Hunter Biden were heavily influential, if not outright running the White House at the end. And then there's another group of close aides to Joe Biden. If you read the book, you can see there's a handful of close aides around him that really were the driver of the conspiracy around shielding him from his own government, shielding him from the public, and kind of running the country either beside him or on top of him. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's a small group of people that are close aides and family. But I also think senior members of the Democratic Party, from Chuck Schumer to Hakeem Jeffries, all these people that you saw come on television day after day after day and told you, the American public, he's fine. I've been around him. He's great. He's sharp. Everything is fine. Well, we know that is just not the case. And I think they ought to have to answer questions about why they lied to the American people when they obviously knew the truth. Not just the truth, but they have governing responsibility. I mean, these are people that are constitutional officers, right? They're sitting members of Congress. They hold positions of leadership. If they thought the president was impaired for any reason, why didn't they come forward? Why didn't they take some kind of an action? So I just look at all these people who were ultimately complicit in this cover-up, and I think everybody here ought to have to answer questions about what they saw and about what they did or didn't do in this case to warn the American people. By the way, you mentioned Robert Hur. They slandered Robert Hur. They slandered this man. He warned us. He writes a report and says, You couldn't even put this man in front of a jury because he's too confused. He warned us. And what did they do to him at the time?
Oh, slayed him.
They took a public service. They slandered him. They slandered him every night for weeks. Even the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris, slandered this man. They all owe this man an apology. All he did was his job, and he got slandered for it, and it's terrible.
So they impeached President Trump over a phone call. They let Biden slide with the whole, bribery thing. Do the Republicans have the stomach to start dragging some of these people for testimony?
I hope so. I think yes. And I'm from Kentucky, so I actually have a lot of confidence in the head of the House Oversight Committee, Jamie Comer, who I think did yeoman's work exposing initially what he called the Biden crime family. He had a New York Times best-selling book about all of his findings. And by the way, look what they did to Jamie.
Yeah.
He does all this work, pulling all this evidence together that the Bidens were profiting off the presidency and money was changing hands, money from foreign sources. He did a great job with that, and they slandered him too.
Yeah.
But I have but he kept going, and I have a lot of confidence that Congressman Comer, who's been, I think, just done amazing work on the Bidens, has the stomach to keep at it, because this really goes beyond corruption. This goes to the heart of our Constitution. Does the Constitution mean anything? When we say we're going to elect a president and the president exercises power, what does that mean to us? What does that mean to us in light of what we now know about this cover-up?
So you're from Kentucky. I got a strong question for you. What's in your future? Are you going to go after? I know you got a great job and great gig going with CNN. Are you going to go after Mitch McConnell's seat, or are you going to stay at CNN?
Well, I don't have any announcements to make about that. I can only tell you what I'm doing right now, which is I just signed a new 3-year contract with CNN. I'm coming up on my 8th anniversary with the network, so I'll be there for another 3 years. I'm trying to sell this book, A Revolution of Common Sense, to anybody who wants to buy it. You can pre-order it on Amazon right now, and it's coming out this fall. But that's my real focus right now. Yes, Kentucky has a Senate seat in the future. Also, we have some other people looking at it that I actually am quite fond of and have been friendly with over the years. I'm confident that we'll keep the seat in Republican hands. And I'll just say this: politics is a team sport. Donald Trump's the head of our team. He's our head coach. At some point, I expect him in the future to weigh in on what's best for the Republican Party as it relates to that seat in 2026. And, my view is when he does, the Republicans ought to look at that, salute, listen to the president, and move forward as a unified party, because I don't think a divisive primary serves anybody very well at all. We've got some tough Senate races out there. We ought not make Kentucky one of them by fighting amongst ourselves. So I'm kind of waiting to see how the president weighs in on this in the future. But right now, I got 2 things to do: go on TV every night and bring common sense to CNN, and sell this book, A Revolution of Common Sense. That's my focus.
Tell me about the book.
It's a great book. I had the idea after the inaugural because the president had this great line: it's a revolution of common sense. That was in the inaugural. He says it sometimes. And I went to him in early February and I pitched him on this idea about having a book that covered roughly the first 100 days of his presidency. And he agreed to cooperate. So I've interviewed and spent time with him, a lot of members of the cabinet, senior members in the White House. I went to Michigan with the president on his 100th day in office on Air Force One. So it's a mixture of my observations, some interviews, me kind of bringing up some issues, and some analysis of things that have happened in the first 100 days. But it all leads back to the president's statement in the inaugural, a revolution of common sense, which I think is actually the new branding of the Republican Party. People say, what kind of ideology does the party have? It's very simple. We're the common sense party. And by definition, the Democrats are the party of uncommon nonsense. So I think Trump's done a brilliant job with branding, and I think he deserves a defense of his first 100 days. He's put a lot of things in the water here, from cultural issues to economic issues to foreign policy issues. And I just think there'll be 100 books attacking Donald Trump about everything he's done. And I wanted there to be one book that tracked back to the original idea of the whole thing, which is I'm just trying to do what's common sense. So that's why the title is what it is. He's on the cover, and you can pre-order it now and get it before Christmas. It'll be an amazing Christmas gift.
December 2nd is when it actually lands, right?
That's what it says now. I think there's a chance we'll move it up to November, depending on the publishing infrastructure of the country. But either way, it'll come out this fall. I wanted people to be able to have it before Christmas because I think if you're somebody who generally is glad that Donald Trump is back, or even if you're somebody who just wants to know a little bit more about what's motivating these issues and his leadership style, I think it'd be great to put that on your bookshelf or put it under a Christmas tree at the end of the year.
Well, I will for sure push it, and actually, when it comes out, I'll actually buy a bunch and just give them out to some of the people in our community. Last question for you, because I know you got to get ready for your show tonight. They're going to pass this bill, or are we wasting our time with it?
Gosh, I hope so. This is the president's agenda, and look, it's a big conference. There's a lot of people with a lot of different ideas, but ultimately, they say there's two parties in Washington: the House and the Senate. And in this case, we're in the House. And we've got to get it out of the House so we can then go over to the Senate and start that process. I mean, we still have weeks or months to go here to get this done. But at the end of the day, what is true? A, this is the president's agenda that he ran on and won the election on. Right. B, we have to cut taxes. We have to prevent the largest tax increase in American history, which is what will happen if they don't make the tax cuts permanent. C, we need historic investment in border security, even though I have to point out Donald Trump has effectively closed the southern border. And D, massive energy deregulation. This will lower energy costs. There's a ton of stuff in here for the American people that everybody will benefit from. And yes, you in New York may not get all the SALT caps you want. And yes, you may not get the exact Medicaid tweaks you want. I mean, it's a big bill, a big, beautiful bill, as the president says. But at its core, the question is this. If you're a Republican who got elected, do you want to be the person who derailed Donald Trump's agenda? He's doing what he can on executive branch stuff. You got to do your part on legislative branch stuff. I don't think one works without the other. So my advice is, Republicans, get behind the head coach. He called the play. Let's run it right here on behalf of the American people.
Do you film in Washington or New York?
It depends on the show. Our 10 o'clock debating show with Abby Phillip each night is in New York.
Okay.
Some of the shows that I do, like Casey Hunt, The Arena, which is at 4 in the afternoon, that's in Washington. The Sunday show, State of the Union, that's in Washington. But I usually come to New York and do the 10 o'clock show with Abby. That's where we do it most often.
All right. Well, we'll be watching, supporting you. You always get the clips because I don't know how you do it because you just have that breath of sanity amongst the insane. So we definitely applaud everything you do every single night. You guys can catch him on Abby Phillips' show. What's the name of the show? Is it just called Abby Phillips?
It's called News Night with Abby
Night.
Phillip. It's at 10 o'clock Eastern each night on CNN.
And we're going to push that book pretty hard. So, Scott, thank you very, very much. Let us know what your future plans are if you happen to make that turn and go for something in Kentucky. Thank you very much.
My plan is to check and see how many books we sold today. So I'll be letting you know.
All right. Thank you, brother. I'll make sure. Actually, I'm going to put it up now. Thank you very much for coming on in.
Thank you, Barry.
All right, bye-bye. All right, again, that's the book. The book is The Revolution of Common Sense, How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. That's by Scott Jennings. You can pre-order on Amazon. And like I said, when it comes out, I will get a couple copies and just hand them out to you guys as well. But if you'd like to support Scott and his fight every single night, please, by all means, get yourself on that pre-registration list. And then for further support, go ahead and follow him on X. And then, of course, watch the show if you can stomach it. If not, we always post clips of it. He's got a tough job. Tough job having to battle those nuts.